Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the CBT podcast. I'm here with Ethan. I'm here with Rod, and today we're going to be doing our third video in the position series where we give our top 10 small forwards. So let's get straight into it. Ethan, who do you have at number 10?
I feel like this should be an easy pick. Brandon Ingram, at that number 10 spot, all-star last year. Can't deny how good he is, but especially with how hard this ranking is, put him at number 10.
Yeah, I know we said the shooting guard rankings was harder than the point guard rankings, and it was. Somehow this is harder than the shooting guard rankings. I don't know how. But yeah, I agree. I also have Brandon Ingram number 10. You'll see with my list, everybody above Brandon Ingram I feel like is proven. And even though he had a good playoff run, I think Brandon Ingram's the only guy I still have questions about.
Now, you said everyone's proven. I didn't really worry about proven with this. I was more worried about who was the best player on their team and made a big impact. So at number 10, I went with Andrew Wiggins, who was not the best player on his team, but yeah, you'll see what I mean in a little bit. So Ethan, number 9.
I actually have Andrew Wiggins there. I feel like he's just now getting proven, but I think he's like a little bit above Brandon Ingram, but below the other players. So, Andrew.
Yeah. I also had Wiggins at 9, but I'm surprised you, of all people, after knowing what Wiggins did to you, could sit there and disrespect. But quickly on Wiggins, I don't think anybody else did more for their own legacy than what Wiggins did for himself last year. All-star, finals, probably second in the running for finals MVP.
Definitely.
Last season was huge for Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah, I just felt like besides the finals, he didn't deserve the all-star spot. Oh, no, excuse me, all-star starter spot. I felt like it was very undeserved, but he did go crazy in the finals. But at number 9, I have a guy who's very efficient, and that is Khris Middleton.
Oh, okay. At my number 8, I have Khris Middleton. I'm surprised by that. Khris Middleton, what can you say about him? All-star, sidekick to Giannis. He's proven himself in the stage, finals. So
Yeah.
Yeah. I also have Khris Middleton at 8. So like I said, you value, I guess, immediate talent, but I've seen Andrew Wiggins and Khris Middleton both do it on the biggest stage. And also, I think Khris Middleton's been an all-star level player for the last 5 years. So yeah, I had to put him at my number 8.
Yeah, so when I watch, I try and judge players off a combination of stats and the eye test. So like you watch and you're like, oh, that person's good. And for me, my number 8 has averaged more points, rebounds, and assists per game than my number 9 and number 10. And I think is the best player in the eye test. And that is Brandon Ingram, who I am very high on.
all right. So at number 7, this is a little bit disrespectful with this one. We start getting a little bit dicey with the lists. I have DeMar DeRozan at my number 7.
I don't think that's disrespectful. I also had him at 7. I think he's right outside that top 6. You guys will definitely see once we get here how hard it gets. But no, quickly on DeRozan, he went under the radar with the Spurs, but when he left the Spurs, he was a lot better than when he came in. Much better playmaker, much better defender. And last season on the Bulls, he was a dark horse MVP candidate. And he had that ridiculous fucking 40-point game stretch. That was crazy.
I do not think number 7 for DeMar DeRozan is disrespectful at all. I think that's just the correct ranking. Obviously DeMar had a great year last year, all NBA, but he's just simply not better than any of the 6 guys above him.
Speaking about number 6, I have Paul George from the Clippers there, sidekick to Kawhi Leonard. All around great player. We all know about Paul George, but he's just at that 6th spot right there.
Yeah, these 3 guys from the 4 through 6 range are interchangeable in my opinion. But I had Jimmy Butler at number 6. If we're just looking at playoff Jimmy, I think he's a little higher. But if you're doing that, you also have to take into account last year where he got swept by the Bucks and got outscored by Bryn Forbes of all people. So it's a mixed bag with Jimmy. We all know what he does as a scorer, as a defender, as a playmaker, but he's at number 6 for me.
Yeah, I think the 4, 5, and 6 are all very interchangeable with one another, but I just couldn't put someone who shoots 20% from 3 any higher than 6. So I have Jimmy Butler at number 6 as well. Obviously, playoff Jimmy is different, but regular season Jimmy is just a good player. Like, respectfully, he's just not that standout kind of guy you see in the playoffs.
So I actually have Jimmy at number 5. I think maybe it's a little bit recency bias with the whole playoffs and taking the Celtics over to game 7. So, I just listed him at that. He's a great defender. He does a lot for that Heat team. And I think he just deserves that number 5 spot.
For me at number 5, I had Jayson Tatum. Now, I have been very hypercritical of Tatum in the past during his whole career, and it may come as a surprise that I have him over Jimmy, but I do think that I hold my opinion that he got worse every series last year in the playoffs, but in my opinion, he has arisen. He's solidified himself, in my opinion, as one of those top 12, top 15 players.
That seems like a little too big of a number. But at number 5, I have Paul George, a guy who is, like you said, the number 2 to Kawhi. But at his peak, he can play make, he can score. One of the deepest bags in NBA history, in my opinion.
Okay, at number 4, I have my favorite player in the league, a man that is going to be MVP within the next 5 years, calling it right now. A man named Jayson Tatum. That's, you can't say much
That's
about
all you
him.
need to say.
Yeah, that's all you got to say, Jayson Tatum.
Yeah, I think the Celtics bias is a little strong here. At number 4, this is where I had Paul George. When I look at in the order I ranked PG, Tatum, and Jimmy, I think Paul George honestly has no flaws in his game. I think about Jimmy, you can obviously point to the 3-point shooting, and sometimes just like the Buck series I mentioned earlier, he just struggled to score in general. Tatum, he's an inefficient playmaker when it comes to assist turnover ratio and all of that. But with Paul George, honestly, I see no flaws. He can do whatever you need him to. He's extremely efficient, great defender, good playmaker, and that did a lot for me.
Yeah, I actually had Paul George at number 4 originally. And then I thought about how Jayson Tatum was the best player on a team that just played in the finals. So I felt like there was no other option but to put Jayson Tatum at number 4, a guy who did finish 4th in MVP voting this season. So 4 might have actually be a little bit low, but it's not when you look at these next top 3. So Ethan, do you want to get right into that?
Oh, this was very difficult. I think number 1 was clear cut for me, but number 2 and 3 could have been interchanged. I have the Claw Kawhi Leonard at number 3. I think he's a great player with no flaws whatsoever. The only thing he has is injuries, but every player is doomed with injuries, and so he just gets that number 3. He should have been 2, but 3. I'll put him at 3.
Yeah, everybody in this top 3, regardless of what order we have them ranked, will trigger an angry response in the comment section. But I will generate the most responses here because I have LeBron at number 3. In my opinion, LeBron's been number 3 for several years now. In my opinion, he peaked as far as his Lakers days in the 2019 championship run. Even then, oh yeah, you're right, 1920. His defense has been slacking. We know that for a long time. He's just given up at this point on defense. That doesn't take away from him being the best playmaker in the league, still an effortless scorer. But when we get to the top 2 in my list, I can't put a guy who doesn't play defense anywhere higher than number 3.
Yeah, LeBron is a big reason why he is where he is on my list. And that is not number 3 because Kawhi's or ACL is an even bigger reason. He's probably better than LeBron when he's healthy. I took some away from him because he's hurt. We're not sure that he's going to come back and look like the normal Kawhi Leonard. It's likely he will, but we just haven't seen him play in 2 seasons. So I couldn't trust him to be at number 2. So I put Kawhi at number 3.
Yeah, speaking of number 2, LeBron James, got to put the king there. I mean, he's still dominating at age, what is he now?
37.
Yeah, that's crazy for what the numbers he puts up, for what he does for that team, to be doing it at such an old age. I mean, you got to give props to him for staying somewhat healthy. I mean, not as much healthy anymore because, with old age comes those injuries. But he's overall been just great. So he gets that number 2.
Yeah, number 2, this is where I had Kawhi. In my opinion, Kawhi was closer to number 1 than he was to number 3 for me. Only reason I couldn't put him at number 1 is because I had to be honest with the injury. ACL is a serious thing. It's not 100% certainty that he comes back healthy, but in my opinion, healthy Kawhi in the playoffs is the most unstoppable player in the NBA by a mile.
Yeah, that's not a terrible take. At number 2, I have a guy who's used to being number 2 ranked there is LeBron James. Like you said, still his playmaking is incredible for a guy who plays the small forward position, the second greatest player to ever walk on the basketball court. But his old age has taken away some defensive ability. So he just doesn't have that number 1 spot anymore. But number 1, I think we all have the same guy, a man who we don't know what team he'll be playing for next year. And that's Kevin Durant.
Mr. Cupcake.
Yep, KD, still a 30-point scorer. He averaged 30 a game just last year. His playmaking continues to improve in my eyes. His defense is above average still. What do you guys have to say about KD?
Yeah, similarly to Paul George, in my opinion, just no flaws in his game. Unlike Kawhi, he doesn't have the injury thing hovering over him. One freak or Achilles injury in his whole career, really. And he's just too consistent, too effortless of a scorer. Like I said, no flaws in his game.
The only flaws that come with KD is just all that drama and all
Yeah.
that baggage that comes with him. Other than that, he is a phenomenal player, one of the greatest scorers in NBA history, if not the greatest. It could be argued, but he's just overall amazing, and so he gets that number 1 spot.
Yeah, no doubt. I think Kevin Durant's a guy who is the best, most well-rounded offensive player in NBA history. So more than deserving of this number 1 ranking. But I think that's going to do it in today's video. Gonna ask that you please drop a like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave your top 10 small forwards list. Who do you think had the worst list? Who do you think had the best list? And who do you think is going to end up with Victor Wembanyama on their team next year? But thank you guys for watching, and we will see you in the next episode.